Amagyantimirandasya Gnandana Shalakaya Chaksharanmiritam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhabevacha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhutai Mahatpriyama Puro Vibhur Nirmakshati Adamushu Purusha Bhunkte Ganan Sadasa Sadasatmaka Yalang Krishna Bhagavan Vachamsi Me. Hare Krishna. So it's my great honor and privilege to be back to Sridham Mayapur and have an opportunity to discuss Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Text 67. And of course for that I will require all the blessings of so many senior Vaishnavas, Prabhupada disciples, and even GBC present here. We all depend on the mercy of Vaishnavas only. That's our Kripa Siddhi. We have no other qualification. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mat-sevayā pratītaṁ te. Mat-sevayā pratītaṁ te. Sālokya-ādi-catuṣṭayam. Sālokya-ādi-catuṣṭayam. Icchanti sevayā pūrṇāḥ. Icchanti sevayā pūrṇāḥ. Anyat kāla-viplutam. Anyat kāla-viplutam. Mat-sevayā pratītam te. Sālokya-ādi-catuṣṭayam. Icchanti sevayā pūrṇāḥ. Anyat kāla-viplutam. Mat-sevayā, by being engaged fully in my transcendental loving service. Pratītam, automatically achieved. Te, such pure devotees are fully satisfied. Sālokya-ādi-catuṣṭayam, the four different types of liberation. Sālokya, sārūpya, sāmīpya, and sārṣṭi. What to speak of sāyujya? Na, not. Icchanti, desire. Sevayā, simply by devotional service. Pūrṇāḥ, fully complete. Kutaḥ, where is the question? Anyat, other things. Kāla-viplutam, which are finished in the course of time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the four principles of liberation, sālokya, sārūpya, sāmīpya, and sārṣṭi, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Purport. Śrīla Bilvamaṅgala Ṭhākura has estimated the value of liberation as follows. Mukti svayam mukulitanjali sevatesman dharmatta kama gataya samaya pratikshaha. Bilvamaṅgala Ṭhākura realized that if one develops his natural devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, mukti stands before him with folded hands to offer all kinds of service. In other words, the devotee is already liberated. There is no need for him to aspire for different types of liberation. The pure devotee automatically achieves liberation, even without desiring it. Mat-sevayā pratītaṁ te sālokya-ādi-catuṣṭayam icchanti sevayā pūrṇāḥ anyat kāla-viplutam. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the four principles of liberation, sālokya, sārūpya, sāmīpya, and sārṣṭi, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? So these are the words of the Supreme Lord addressing Durvasa Muni, who was chased around with the Sudarshan Chakra after his attempts to assassinate Ambarisha Maharaj for a terrible offense that he drank a little water before feeding Durvasa Muni. As we know, Durvasa Muni is very touchy sage in Vedic tradition. There are a number of episodes about the troubles he was creating, but I was talking with Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu, and he was mentioning that Durvasa Muni also gave blessings, very powerful blessings to Srimati Radharani, so that her cooking would be always nectarian. And we know that gopis also got blessings from him. Bhagavatam is a very interesting scripture because, unlike other Vedic scriptures, it openly discusses so many faults of so many great personalities, such as Indra, Brahma, even Lord Shiva. But all these faults are not discussed so that we would actually think, oh, all these are useless people because they are not chanting Hare Krishna properly. But I am the great personality. No, it's actually shown that to help us understand that no matter how high we advance in our social positions, and that is, we can say, one of the side benefits of devotional service. It's very interesting. Krishna Consciousness is working in a very interesting ways that you have no desire for anything material and you just pray for pure devotional service, but suddenly so many material things start coming. And of course, they come to help us in our responsibilities, because the higher position you have in this society and the more advantages you have, then people tend to take you more seriously, and then they tend to listen more attentively to what you have to say. It's like Srila Prabhupada was saying that I would be pretty happy to chant Hare Krishna sitting under the tree, but how many would come and listen? But now we are opening these grand and very opulent temples, and so many people come because they recognize, wow, something serious is happening here, right? Like, we can only imagine what kind of attention from the entire planet will get after the opening of the temple of Vedic Planetarium. And Srila Prabhupada knew that, and that's why he was so insistent that this temple should be built to attract the whole world to Krishna consciousness and to enable them to get full mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So all these things come, but the downside is that we can become affected, and we may start identifying and think ourselves to be deserving, and forgetting that it's so given to us for the service, in the same way as, sometimes people, for example, in a bank system, they might forget that all the large amounts of money do not belong to them, but they are part of their, professional duty. And once they forget it and they pocket the money, they become criminals, and so there is a fall down at this point. And so this is one of the stories of a trouble Durvasa Muni got himself into just because he started identifying himself too much with the position. And as we know, all these things are part of Kaitava Dharma. And one of the big things Gaudiya Vaishnavas are focused on, using the modern term, engaged in disruption of the status quo, that is caste brahmanas, right? That people who are born in a certain position, but then they start identifying themselves as brahmanas, even though they have no qualification. But there was one interesting class given by Srila Prabhupada here in Mayapur, wherein he says, yes, those caste brahmanas, they are born in Brahman families and they identify themselves with that position just on the basis of birth, having no qualification. But if you take second birth, if you take initiation into a brahmana, and suddenly you start identifying yourself with this position, and you think just because you have position, you have qualification, then it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. So we should always remember that our acquirements or our achievements are not really ours, but they are given to us for our devotional service. And then if we abuse and misuse whatever we got, then we put ourselves in a trouble. And again, discussing with Vidwan Gauranga Prabhu about the name Durvasa, the very well-known meaning of name is Durva Sa, that one who is subsisting by the juice of the Durva grass. So extremely austere sage. But then we were discussing, can that name be translated in a different way if we divide it into Durvasa? And we came to a conclusion that the meaning is, Dur means difficult and Vasa means live. One who is very difficult to live with. And it's very interesting that Srila Prabhupada describes in Nectar of Devotion that austerities can be helpful in one's devotional advancement, and of course tapasya is one of the three primary purifying elements, even for the great souls, pavanani manishanam, as Bhagavad Gita mentions, yagyadana tapa karma natyajam karyamevacha, that sacrifice, charity, and austerity are the three primary purifying elements, but it's explained in Nectar of Devotion that if you do it in a wrong way, that austerity can also harden the heart. And it's actually quite common that those who are performing too much of the austerity, they become very easily agitatable and irritatable, right? And then, that comes in a form of an anger. That could be the reason why Durvasa Muni is so easily irritatable, that he is very austere. And so that's why it's one of the important things for us to understand, that our austerities are not like mystic yogi austerities, that we sleep on the bed of nails or stand in a ice-cold water submerged up to our necks, or do a headstand or do something like that. Our austerity is to chant Hare Krishna, listen to Bhagavatam, associate with devotees, dance in ecstasy, and take prasadam. These are our austerities. In other words, austerity means that we do whatever it takes to please the Lord, right? And not have any other motivation. And if we have any other motivation, then those austerities might produce the opposite effect, right? Tapa. Tapa means something which produces fire, so that fire could come out in the form of an anger, right? Or irritation. So, and another very important point in this pastime is that positions, right, that Durvasa Muni had in terms of varnashrama higher position than Ambarish Maharaj, and so that's why he expected Ambarish Maharaj to, be lower than him in terms of his spiritual advancement. But it's not necessarily like this, and it can be quite common that someone who has lower social position can be much higher in terms of spiritual advancement, like Haridas Thakur being the primary example of someone who had quite a low social position, but he was very high in terms of his Krishna consciousness and knowledge and renunciation and everything else, but it was not really understood by quite a few of his contemporaries who actually suffered as a result of offending Haridas Thakur. And so Anuttama Prabhu gave an excellent class yesterday, saying that instead of looking at other people in terms of the application of this pastime, it's really important to look at myself first. And so if I ask myself a question, do I have those Durvasa Muni tendencies? If I'm honest, I have to say yes, because I'm also thinking myself quite high, and for example, not showing enough patience towards simple pilgrims who come to the temple, but some of them could be pure devotees, residents of the Dhamma, that's already very high position from the start, and so if we do anything wrong to them, that could result in a serious trouble in our spiritual life. And Durvasa Muni got himself into a serious trouble because Sudarshan Chakra was right after him, and so he was really afraid for his life. And Sudarshana has many functions, and of course one function that it is the Lord's weapon. Actually, Lord has 4 symbols in his hands. 2 are meant for devotees and 2 are meant for demons. With 2 he is blessing his devotees, and with the other 2 he is punishing the demons, right? Sudarshana, disc and club are specifically meant to punish the demons. And of course lotus and conch are meant for devotees. But here Sudarshana is chasing Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni is a devotee. So we might think, what's happening here? Why is he getting the weapon which is meant for demons behind him? But this is the thing, that whether we are devotees or demons, that is not depending on our external dress or position, but it's based on our consciousness. And so if we think in the same way as it is described in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I wouldn't remember the verse number, but it's very interesting. Ishvaroham aham bhogi sukho ham balavan sukhi, that I am the Lord, I am the boss, Ishvara, and Ishvaroham aham bhogi, I am enjoying life. Siddhoham, I am perfect. Balavan, I am powerful and I am happy because of these things. So then it's actually demoniac mentality. It's very interesting that demons, even though they are so full of all kinds of problems, they think themselves perfect. Devotees, even though they are so perfect, they describe themselves as full of problems, right? That one of the, actually, as Prabhupada said, his most favorite song of Narottam Das Thakur is Ishta Devi Vigyapati, and this is how it goes. Hari Hari Bipale Janame Ganaino Manusha Janama Pai Radha Krishna Nabhajeya Janya Shunya Bishakaino. Oh my Lord, my life is wasted without any use, uselessly wasted, because I have taken this human form of life, but I never worshipped Radha and Krishna, and that's why I'm drinking poison knowingly, etc. And there are so many songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas, and they're describing so many faults. I mean, if you just look at the song Amara Jivana Sada Paperata by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's horrible what he says about himself, right? My life is so full of sin and I've never done even one good thing. It's mind-blowing how he could say something like that about himself. Or Krishna Das Kaviraj, Jagai Madai, Unishe Lagishta, what's that? Can't remember the Bengali now, but he says that I'm so sinful and fallen, I'm worse than Jagai Madai. Actually, he said, I'm worse than worm in a stool. Right? And whoever hears my name loses all piety. And whoever says my name becomes very sinful. These are like such excellent devotees, but this is the thing that devotees always look up. They look up to the Lord and His eternal associates, and they compare themselves with those great personalities. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his song that even demons whom Krishna killed in his pastimes in Vrindavan are better than me because they are already in the spiritual world and I'm still rotting in this material world, right? The song Gopinath. And so, they compare themselves with the topmost standards, and comparing to that standard, they feel themselves very low and fallen automatically. But demons, they always look down, right, at everybody else, and they always try to find the faults in other people and find their own advantages, right? And naturally, it's the first and foremost demoniac quality, which is pride. Dambho, damo, bhimavanascha, krodha parushamevacha. And of course, the harsh behavior comes from that as well. So this, the demoniac quality is described in the 4th verse of the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And so, in this way, we can understand, as Prabhupada would say, that now your devotees do not become demons again. That's really important. That, unfortunately, yes, if we get affected by the demoniac mentality, we might display demoniac behavior even if we are devotees. And so these are very stern warning from Bhagavatam for each and every one of us. And Durvasa Muni was chased around with this Sudarshan Chakra, and he wanted to get rid of that Sudarshan Chakra, right? So he was interested in liberation from material miseries. So he was really miserable, even though the source of miseries was perfectly spiritual. And the other aspect of chakra is time, Kala chakra, Samvrita Kala chakra. And so time creates fear in the hearts of the conditioned souls, and desire to become free from the miseries imposed by time are very typical for the conditioned soul. And so Durvasa Muni exemplifies that as well, that he is running away from the Sudarshan Chakra, running away from the influence of time. But then Sudarshan Chakra had to destroy, and the best thing to destroy is false ego, because if false ego is destroyed, then this is the ultimate dissolution, as the 12th canto of Bhagavatam explains. And so that's why Sudarshan Chakra chased Durvasa Muni right up to Vaikuntha and right up to the Supreme Lord. And then it's very interesting that it says that even the moment of association with great devotees bring one to the complete perfection. So Durvasa Muni associated with Ambarish Maharaj, great devotee, and then Sudarshan Chakra chased him all the way to the spiritual world, to the association of the Supreme Lord. He got the mercy of the Lord by the mercy of Ambarish Maharaj. Of course, the trouble was that this was the kind of mercy which was not very sweet, which was not very palatable. In the same way as, Kamsa also got Krishna's mercy, but his mercy was shown with the, blows of his hard fists. And so Krishna killed Kamsa with his fists, and then he dragged him around by the hair, his dead body, just to help everyone understand that he is dead. And so, yes, we have the choice that if we are connected to Krishna and devotees, we'll definitely get the benefit. But whether we want to voluntarily go back home, back to Godhead, happily singing and dancing along the way, or we want to spend our life in fear of the consequences of our offenses and ultimately suffer those consequences and literally be dragged by the hair back home, back to Godhead. That is the choice we make all the time while we are in this world. And so Krishna is, or Lord Vishnu, is telling Durvasa Muni that my devotees are not interested in any types of liberation, helping Durvasa Muni to understand that, his position is very different from the position of Ambarish Maharaj, because he says, my devotees are always satisfied. And so because they are satisfied, they are not worried about anything. And so Ambarish Maharaj, because he was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, he didn't even mind the perspective of death from this horrible demon created by Durvasa Muni. In the same way as Prahlad Maharaj, he never he was not worried about the perspective of dying, assassinated by Hiranyakashipu. This is very, very high level of Krishna consciousness. Actually, sometimes we're talking about forgiveness, but we can see in the examples of pure devotees such as Ambarish Maharaj here and Prahlad Maharaj and many others, that they never had any issue with the offenders in the first place, so they didn't have to forgive. It's like we never read in Bhagavatam that Ambarish Maharaj tells Durvasa Muni, okay, you have offended me, but I am forgiving you. Right? No. It does not exist. And neither Prahlad Maharaj says, oh, Hiranyakashipu, he offended me so many times, but I am forgiving him. Right? So it shows that actually devotional service is even beyond forgiveness, because pure devotee never sees any problems with anyone in the first place. Why? Because devotees see everything and everyone as instrument in Krishna's hands. Devotee, pure devotee, sees that everything is arranged by Krishna only. And so then if we have to forgive, if Krishna is doing everything, does it mean we have to forgive Krishna for what he arranged? Actually, some religionists, they come up with this idea, right? That the Lord arranged this world as such a horrible place, but we have to forgive him. One Christian pastor came up with this thing and even wrote a book about this. Okay, we have to forgive God. So that shows, that in the mundane religiosity, people actually have zero idea. They have zero spiritual knowledge. But Krishna consciousness means that there is nothing to forgive for, because everything is perfect. Everything is perfectly arranged by Krishna. And so that's why, because devotees are with Krishna, whether in the material or spiritual world, they don't worry about being liberated or changing their position, or like Lord Shiva glorifies Chitraketu Maharaj, Narayana Parasarve na kutaśana bipyati svargapa varga narakesha pitulyartha darshana. That devotees, pure devotees are like that. They all of them, they know no fear. They're not worried about anything. Worries, anxieties, these are all manifestation of fear. So devotees are not anxious about anything. Svarga pavarga narakesha pitulyartha darshana. So they see Svarga, heavenly planets, apavarga, liberation, or narakesh, that even hell, it's apitulyartha darshana, it's all the same for them. As long as I am with Krishna, I don't care. And we can see that. And devotees are enjoying their devotional service so much that the only thing they think about, how can I share that joy, that bliss of devotional service with everybody else, right? Because they have no problems. And that's why Prahlad Maharaj also says in the 7th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that for myself, I'm very happy in my devotional service, but I'm really worried about all these poor fools and rascals living in big cities, that saintly personalities, they leave these guys and go into forests and mountains and caves to avoid that bad association. But for myself, I don't want to be liberated alone. I want to take all of them with me. So that's the compassion of the devotee, who is fully happy in Krishna consciousness. And we can understand that our compassion develops in proportion to our happiness in Krishna consciousness. You know, whatever we have inside, we share with others, right? If we have problems, we cause problems. But if we are happy in Krishna consciousness, then we can share this happiness with everybody else. And we can see so many amazing examples. Srila Prabhupada, he was perfectly situated in Vrindavan and enjoying his life. Vrindavan is like Mayapur, it's no different from the spiritual world, but he left Vrindavan and he went to the most hellish situation in America. It was real hell. I mean, even those who were born in the West by contact with devotional service, it would be hard even for us to tolerate, this situation when people walk in their boots in your room and they smoke in your face, and you have to keep your food products in a meat-filled refrigerator. Prabhupada had to put up with all these things. So for him, it was like coming from the spiritual world, Vrindavan, right into the worst hell in America. But he didn't care about it. He stayed on because for him, serving the Lord was the most important thing. So he was not striving to escape from that situation. And, the Srila Prabhupada left so many legacies behind, but my conviction is that, of course, books, but I'm very convinced that the greatest legacy Srila Prabhupada left behind is the disciples who follow in his footsteps and have exactly the same mentality as him, and they don't care about themselves at all. They just want to serve the Lord, and this is their joy. And of course, we owe Jayapataka Maharaj so much for making a lot of sacrifices in establishing Mayapur. And despite of all the troubles and tribulations he has to go through, he still continues, and It's like a little illustration how devotees are not desiring any liberation or any benefits for themselves is from Russia, that Jayapataka Maharaj came there, and of course he's such a popular devotee. Whenever he comes, he's so fully engaged in different programs, you can't even like stick a pin between, right? And so devotees booked, or devotees requested for like 6 programs in a day. And then his secretaries, they thought, no, this is too much, because, you know, he has to take a little rest with his health condition. You cannot overexert yourself. And so they canceled one program. And then Jayapataka Maharaj came to know about this. And he called all his secretaries in, and he said, do you think I'm really enjoying life in my physical condition? Of course not. So my only happiness in life is preaching Krishna consciousness. And effectively, you're depriving me of my only happiness. So that was his way of getting on their case. But it's quite amazing that devotees are ready to sacrifice everything, including, you know, sacrifice their own lives for the sake of giving Krishna consciousness to everybody, and this is their pleasure. And it's very amazing to see all these sacrifices devotees are making historically, before or after. And so they are more interested in helping others in Krishna consciousness rather than getting anything for themselves. But because they are so dedicated, everything, the Supreme Lord is providing them with everything. In the same way as, say, like dedicated and duty-bound servant is provided with everything by his master. It's like Srila Prabhupada gave an example of the beauty of Vedic culture, how sometimes people would be so much into service that they would, even Shudras, especially Shudras, they would come to a master, they would come to a powerful and wealthy man, and they would say that I just want to serve you and I don't require any salary. You can feed me if you like what I'm doing, but that's all. And of course, you know, such a contract is very easy to fulfill. And so the rich man would take the servant, and then the servant would be so dutiful and so devoted to the master that master would actually trust everything to his servant. And because he knew that he is really loyal and he really have his interest in my heart. And as often happens, the children of the wealthy man would become very spoiled, and the man would know that if he leaves his money in the hands of his children, they would just squander it in no time. And so sometimes this wealthy man would tell his trusted servant, I leave all the money in your hands, but make sure that these guys are also taken care of, my children, right? So one who wanted nothing would end up with everything. And so in the same way, if someone is fully dedicated in the Lord's service, everything can become easily available for such devotee. What to speak of liberation, or what to speak of material benefits. Hare Krishna. So, if anyone has any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, corrections. Yes, Maharaj.
One nice comment about Jayapataka Maharaj. He used to take a flight that would go to Moscow, and he would make sure that it was extra long, like 18-hour layover. and then he'd have his devotees plan all his programs inside this 18-hour period, so that he would get there, he'd get a free stopover, he'd preach Krishna consciousness, and then go on about it.
Haribol. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Why people not serious about Krishna consciousness if it is so easily available? Well, maybe this is the reason. That sometimes whatever comes easily is not really appreciated. Thank you. So yeah, and that's why we have certain standards, certain rules. For example, to get initiated, one has to follow strictly 4 regulative principles, chant at least 16 rounds, do service, and nowadays also pass different exams, etc. Seems to be unnecessary restrictions, but it helps to provide better quality. It helps people to take it more seriously. Like in the morning, quote from Prabhupada, he said in a letter, if you do programs outside, you have to charge people. If they want free, they have to come to the temple. But if you don't charge them, then they don't take it seriously, whatever you give them. It's very interesting. All right. Anyone else? Yes, Mataji, microphone.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the nice class.
Thank you.
You were talking about how doing too many austerities can make a person hard-hearted. Are there other things that can make a person hard-hearted?
Austerity is, of course, bad association can make someone hard-hearted, and I think association is the biggest factor which influences our consciousness. And of course, one's previous bad karma can make one hard-hearted as well.
Hare Krishna. Can you explain a bit further how is that devotional service is over compassion? You said that.
How devotional service makes one compassionate?
No, that you mentioned that referring to Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, that devotional service is over, beyond compassion. He didn't feel offended, and
yes,
this means that it's over.
Yeah, above forgiveness, yes, because for devotee, any trouble in this world, even death, he is seeing that as Krishna's blessing. And so Ambarish Maharaj was thinking, okay, if Krishna arranged things in such a way that this demon will have to kill me, I'll go back to Krishna, right? And so he was pretty happy to take up this option. So, because devotee has very, very high level of Krishna consciousness, and then he's seeing everything as Krishna's mercy. And this is one important point which I really feel that we need to practice in our Krishna consciousness, is to go beyond the duality. And duality means benefits and troubles, right? We have to always face. We get some benefits, we get some troubles. And the formula to become free from duality is learning to see benefits in troubles and troubles in benefits, right? If we see benefits in troubles, they stop being troubles. But if we see troubles and benefits, we'll never get allured by Maya, right? So that's why you can see devotees are never upset or bothered about any kind of difficulties they have to go through. It's like I've heard the first comment Srila Prabhupada made at the Juhu land after it was gained after so much trouble and tribulation. He said, Krishna is so merciful, we got such a nice land without any problems. But this was Srila Prabhupada's perception. What problems? It was a good fight for Krishna, so it was fun. And after all this fun, we got all this nice land. So this is how devotee thinks. All right, so thank you all very much. If anyone has any further comments or questions individually, I'll be happy to talk to you. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Mayapur Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.